Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. I'm Lauren Malevich, the Director of Marketing and Simplify Solutions. Today, we're excited to have our Solution Director and Client Partner, Dan Skinzel, as he takes a deep dive into the Analytics Cloud Data Analyzer and the different ways it can enhance your data analytics. When the webinar concludes, a short survey will appear. If you can please fill that out, we'd really appreciate any and all feedback. Also, feel free to reach out to Dan or myself after the webinar with any questions. And now I'll hand it over to Dan. He can get started.
Great, thank you, Lauren. Welcome, everyone. Glad you could join this webinar on Analytics Cloud Data Analyzer. My name is Dan Skinzel, and just give you a quick picture of myself, my contact information, LinkedIn link here, just so you have an idea who you're talking with. I've been with Simplify for about 5 years. And before that, spent most of my career in the corporate FP&A roles. So I have a lot of experience on the corporate side, but love the technical aspects of the role. So that's why I'm doing what I do today. And just wish I could have had all of these tools that I work with and that I'm going to present to you today. Wish I had those in my corporate FP&A job at the time, so that would have been great. But anyway, hopefully you'll see the benefit out of this. So what we will do today is give you a quick intro of Simplify if you're not familiar who we are. We'll also then just dive right into Data Analyzer with a quick overview and some use cases. You know, why would I use this tool? And then dive right into the Analytics Cloud itself and look at Data Analyzer and how you can use that to supplement your analytics. So with that, why don't we just jump right into a quick intro of Simplify and who we are. We are a team of finance and analytics experts. Most of our consultants have finance backgrounds like myself, and we have those with MBAs, CPAs, etc. We also have a few folks on our team that are more from a technical background, but primarily mostly finance and analytics expert. We do offer different business and services and tech and have different technology focuses on SAP products such as BTP, Analytics Cloud, which is what we're looking at today, DataSphere, etc. We do business transformations, even expert as a service offerings, and so forth. One thing we have that we launched this year is our Planify platform. What we have done is, since we are a team of finance and analytics experts, we have a lot of business knowledge, and we know what most companies need just from a baseline. There's certain things that are going to be pretty much the same regardless of what company you're with. And so what we've done is we've built different applications in an integrated manner that we can deploy very quickly with clients, and we've had great success doing this so far. And as you can see, some of the different areas that we work with. So with that, I mean, a little more on Planify and what it is. We look at a technology platform, yes, for FP&A, different lines of business, financial statements, consolidations, and it is built on a technology stack that's used by thousands of companies, thousands of SAP clients around the world. The primary value to you as a customer is we've done a lot of this work up front for you, all of that work that generally is going to be the same or similar across most, if not all, organizations. So we've done all that. We've figured all that out ahead of time. So you're going to have a faster value realization when you use this platform. And this platform can be you know, piecemealed as well. portions of it can be used and not others, but we do look at things like consolidations, performance reporting, capital planning, liquidity planning, and so forth. And you can see there just the quick amount of time that it can take to implement these applications with low configuration. Okay, and then this here is just a little more detail about what Planify offers. And you will get a copy of this deck, so I'm not going to go through much more of that detail there. But what you can see here is, some of the logos or companies that we've worked with, and some bullet points on, why Simplify? Why would you partner with somebody like Simplify? And I have covered some of that already, but if we look at some of the stats at the bottom, the 200 plus projects we've delivered, 90+% success rate, et cetera, et cetera. So we are a go-to partner for SAP in the analytics cloud space. And so we have partnered with SAP in a fair amount of implementations. And just taking a look at some of the logos and companies here that we've worked with on a broader scale, some of them are going to be pretty recognizable to you, like Goodyear and Dole and Chamberlain and SumUp and Wolverine, et cetera. So a lot of great customers, a lot of great relationships there, and very happy to work with all those folks. So again, wrapping up on Planify, we do have experts in the various parts of that application or that platform. And so we can hone in on various areas there. And what I'll do here is just give you a quick bird's eye view of some of the applications, like consolidations and some of the things that we do here. Legal consolidations, management consolidations, full currency translations with CTA calculations, etc. This has been a very hot product of ours lately, and we are seeing more and more requests for this to be implemented. And it's been done so with great success so far. Also, some performance reporting items in those packages. These are automated bridge reporting, which again, in my corporate FP&A role, I wish I would have had this, because I always tried to build these in Excel, and took a long time to do that, as I'm sure some of you are well aware. Also, we have workforce planning or HR planning within Planify as well. This has also been a component that's been well received and asked for numerous times for implementation with great success. We'll just come through here. Another one as well as project and capital analytics and planning. So our CapEx, where we go from evaluating a potential project, calculating discounted cash flows, ROIs, et cetera, all the way to forecasting those products or projects on an ongoing basis for your forecasts, your budgets. Okay, and then some customer references here as we look at Fiserv and Wolverine and some of the applications that they have implemented and are potentially looking at making next moves on. Also, if we look at a consolidations use case, partner, someone that we partnered with in SumUp, a couple $1 billion company that was consolidating their organization in Excel, and now using Analytics Cloud, and to much success there, and a lot of improvement in their close process. And here's just another snapshot of some of the analytics that we do offer. So with that, I'm just going to skip through a couple of things here, and I would like to leave the Simplify intro and just jump right into the data analyzer overview, and let's take a quick look at that. So what is data analyzer in Analytics Cloud? Really, this is not an application within SAC that's talked about very much. It's kind of there and kind of off to the side, but a lot of folks generally tend to focus on the stories and the tables, the charts, and everything that they can use for their analytics. And a lot of times end up exporting things from those stories, those tables and charts into Excel and do some of their analytics there. Data Analyzer is something that can really assist you in your ad hoc analysis. You're going to find out that you're going to want to be using this as your primary or starting point in that analysis to take that initial deep dive into your data. Okay. One thing it can do as far as connection, where am I going to get my data to use within Data Analyzer? Obviously, because it's resident within Analytics Cloud, you're going to be able to connect that directly to SAC models, as well as from SAC, you could connect it also to live BW queries, HANA views, and just recently we are starting to work with DataSphere and making connections directly to DataSphere models. So this is a big enhancement and something that's coming very quickly upon us. So we actually are working with a client right now where we will be implementing this. So we're really excited to be able to do that. But so that's kind of just a quick overview of what Data Analyzer is, and we'll get into some of the details. And you can see this is just a quick snapshot of what you might see on the screen within Data Analyzer upon first entering it. But what can Data Analyzer do? Okay, what you're going to see when we get into it is you're going to immediately see that you can use it in a pivot table-like manner. So those that use Excel, which are probably most people on the call, are going to be familiar with the look and feel. They're going to be able to adapt to it very quickly, okay? And in doing so, with the addition of those live connections or connecting to a model that is frequently updated from its source, you're going to have not only looks at data in a pivot table like manner, but you're going to be looking at data that is either live or very frequently updated. Once you get that data in Excel, that data is now static. The only way you're going to update that data is to go through the whole process of exporting it again, building your pivot table again, doing it all over, which can be a time-consuming process. So once you have your Data Analyzer insights created, which we will get into what those are, you can actually save those within the tool. You can save those within SAC and you can share them with other users. You could also link them to other stories and charts and so forth, which we will take a look at as well. So how do you get to it? How do you access it? Generally, most users are going to have default access to it unless it's been specifically taken away for some reason, excuse me. But what you need, and I just have this here for those that want to use this later, is in the access you need to have private insight privileges or viewer privileges for the ability to save what we call insights to your My Files area within SAC. So at that point, when you use Data Analyzer, you can then save those results off, for your own later use as well. One thing to keep in mind as well is that the user's current access rights are going to be recognized or honored by the process. So meaning that if a user has only access to a certain slice of the data within a model, when they initiate the Data Analyzer, that's going to be all the data that they see that's connected to that data source. So the security or the access rights for that data source will be honored by the Data Analyzer. So, which is also another key ingredient of the success of this tool. So let's get into what we would have for use cases. How and when am I going to use this? So once you understand the capabilities of Data Analyzer, like I mentioned before, you're going to just instinctively, if you're in SAC a lot, using the different stories and charts in your FP&A roles or consolidation roles, or other non-financial roles that use SAC, you're going to instinctively want to go to the data analyzer to do your ad hoc analysis. It's going to be a good starting point in lieu of constantly exporting data to Excel. I don't by nature have anything against Excel. I really like Excel, but when we're talking about large amounts of data and data that would be beneficial to have updated very frequently and repeatably, that's where Excel falls short in this regard. And that's why Data Analyzer is going to be your go-to should you start using it with your applications. So, like I said, it's going to be a powerful pivot table-like function that you're going to be able to adapt to quickly, and you're going to get to your data quickly. And importantly, you're going to be able to save those results. You don't have to recreate them every time. You can save different looks or different sorts or different filters of the data. And then, as I mentioned before, you'll be able to start adding links to existing stories for quick access to those often used insights that you have. So I will get into those in the demo here, so we'll take a look at those shortly. But ultimately, it's just going to be a quick way to get into the details from the tables and charts that you use. For example, if this was a chart here that you were looking at, we'll be able to see that you could click on a data point here and quickly go to the data that supports the data points within this chart. It's a very, very good tool to use for this. So with that, I did not want to spend a whole lot of time just going through verbiage on this. So let's just dive right in to the demo itself. So let me change screens here. Okay. So now what you have in front of you here, assuming most everyone on the call is somewhat familiar with SAC, because this is a pretty focused topic within the SAC application. But if not, what we have over here on the left side is going to be our menu bar. Okay, this is going to be where you're going to be able to access the various applications you have access to. Your menu bar may not look like mine because I have access to everything here. So depending upon your user level, you may have some of these, you may not. So if you look here down the menu, you're going to see the third point here is Data Analyzer. So I want to give you some navigation tour the navigation here in Data Analyzer before we really get into building something. So let's just take a quick look at that. At Data Analyzer, you can see what you're going to have here is you're going to show some recent files, and those files in this context of Data Analyzer are going to be your insights. They're always going to have this icon here, which is a little table and a chart. So you can see that icon anywhere around. You could access these from your file folders as well, and they would have the same icon. So you'd be able to pull those out visually very quickly. But we'll get into these in a minute. But I want to show you the different data sources that you could use. We can pull, if we click here, you can see that we do have some connections to BW and HANA. I'm not going to go into those, but if you have these connections set up already, you can choose your connection. And then once you choose a connection, you simply put in your credentials, and then you are connected to that space. So I'll just cancel that. And I want to focus here on the existing models within SAC. So let's take this route. And you can see once this opens up, this is going to open up directly to my files, which then gives me a look at the folder structure within SAC, kind of the same structure you would see if you were accessing directly up here. You can also see that this is where you're going to be able to connect to your, excuse me, to your DataSphere models as well. So DataSphere is going to be a BW-like or a data warehouse like application that is being used now. And we, like I said earlier, we're connecting to these types of sources now that where DataSphere can do a lot of calculations on its own. It can pull different tables together, etc., kind of like you would do in a BW or a data warehouse cloud, for example. Okay, but what we're going to do here is I'm just going to go and select a model here. Okay, I have a model that I've loaded some data for the Australian car market. I know it sounds pretty random, but it sounds like something fun to work with. So let's take a look at that. I'm just going to close this over here for now. But you can see that once we connected to that model, we automatically have some data. And what this is doing for us is just presenting all of the measures for us, and in this case, the key figures of the account dimension, and so forth. And it puts a filter up here for the actual version. So what I want to do at this point is just to give you a quick tour of the navigation. So if we look at the toolbar going across the top, if we drop this down, this basically here, this canvas, this is an insight. This is a data analyzer insight. So one thing we can do is we can save this insight and we can call it, name it, whatever we want, okay? So that's where you would do that. We can also, we'll get into the save as later, but the other thing you can do, kind of the universal export symbol here is, yes, once you get your data analyzer data here in a format or a sort filter data region that you prefer, you could export that to Excel, CSV, or even PDF if you're just presenting a data set, some totals to someone. Okay, so that's where you would do that. Just recently added to Data Analyzer are the undo and redo functions, which are very helpful. Here is our auto refresh. It's just on by default, but you can toggle that on and off. And auto refresh would mean if you make a change to the table, it's just going to automatically go get the data and bring it to the screen. So if you're working with a very large data set and maybe you want to make 2 or 3 or 4 known changes before you want the report to go ping the server to bring all the data back, you can undo this, make all your changes, and then come back and just refresh it all at once. So that's kind of what that function would be for. If we go next door to the ellipsis here, there's a few different items here, kind of the leftovers of, if you will, of the actions. There is a reset function. So if we make a whole bunch of changes to this here, but we didn't really want to end up in that space, so we just wanted to go back to our original state, and maybe we haven't saved it yet, so we really have nothing to go back to. At that point, we can just click the reset here and it will take us back to our original state, so that's very helpful. We can also create a new insight directly from here. So if I click on here, then you would see the exact same place we started here. And I'll kind of get into why we might do that later. And additionally, just some information about, the data source that we're connected to. Okay, we can also put this in full screen mode, and we can toggle on and off the filter bar here, and as well as add additional filters, which we will do later. Okay, lastly, on the right side, we're going to see where all the kind of the work will take place to get your data to the manner that you want to see it. And we'll get into the functionality of this in a little bit, but just to highlight some of the things that are available here. If you click on the ellipsis on the row or the column, and again, you can already see that look and feel of a pivot table where you have the objects that are available to you, as well as the rows and the columns, and then similar to the Excel pivot table, where you would have a kind of a page access filter. That's what this would act as up here. This would filter everything on the page here, similar to what that would do in Excel. So if we focus on the rows here and the ellipsis, you can see where you could just quickly swap the axis. Not that we want to do that in this case. We can swap that back. We can look at positioning our totals, top, bottom, or top and bottom, depending upon what your needs are, and so on. Same thing's going to be the case down here in the columns as we look at the various options we have. Okay. Here you're automatically going to have your accounts displayed if you have accounts in your model, as opposed to a new model that could just have measures and not require accounts, but those would be listed here. Yes, there's only 4 of them because I'm trying to keep things simple here for the demo, but yes, you could have, lots and lots of accounts showing up here. Also, we're going to see our measures here and then the different dimensions. Not only the dimension names and IDs, but also the properties of dimensions will be able to show up here, and you'll be able to do some things with them. So one thing you'll be able to see too is as we look at the accounts and the measures here, we can quickly also swap things out by clicking these buttons here. And you can see this one says rows, this one says columns. So instead of dragging things around, we can just click on these buttons here, and that will tell us, hey, I want my accounts on the rows, or I want my measures on the rows as well. But now let's put them back in the column. So you have the flexibility with that, and you have that same thing with all the dimensions and all the properties as well. Okay. All right. So one thing we could do here, if we just look at the filter bar too, is we could go through and just add an additional filter because we don't know what we're working with here as far as years and so on. Maybe we could just put in 2021, and you'll see this filter pop up here. And now we have access to be able to, or the ability to focus this data on 2021. Or we can, in addition to that, pull in different years as well. We'll have 3 years worth of data here. So you have that control with the data. And then if you were to export it at this point, this is what you would see, okay? Again, knowing that once you get it into Excel, it's a static set of data. You're not going to be able to do anything else with it as far as drill capabilities and so forth. So, but anyway, if you're working with a larger data set and need to kind of pare it down so that it kind of gets usable for you in Excel, then that's what you could do here. Okay. All right. So another thing I would like to show you is another place where you can create a data analyzer insight from is if we go to the model itself. I just duplicated the tab there. And by the way, another enhancement that just came out this weekend for all SAC customers is that we actually have the name of what we are looking at on the screen now in the tab, which is very, very useful for those that are using SAC. I'm sure you can applaud that. Anyway, I wanted to take a look at the actual model itself. And waiting for that to open. Once we get into a model, for those that are familiar with the models, and that's going to be those with modeler access or administrative rights access, you're probably pretty familiar with this screen. And one of those views within here, in addition to the star schema, is the data foundation, this view right here. If you're like me, I've used this numerous times if I just want to look up a known data point very quickly. I know the account, I know the year, I know the gearbox, for example, and it'll give me the 5 or 6 items I'm looking for. for example, okay? However, that's all you're limited to here. You're not going to be able to export that. You're not going to be able to summarize that. Uh, it's really just a quick lookup feature. So when you're within here and need to look at some data, maybe in different summarized fashion or in different uh, categories and so forth, what you can do is you can access Data Analyzer directly from here. So if you didn't see where I clicked, this is the action menu that's on the title bar across the top next to the name of the model. So if we drop that down, not only can you do Data Analyzer from here, but other items as well, such as creating stories. Well, let's click on Data Analyzer. And as you can guess, it's going to take us back to the same exact spot we were with that same look and feel of the data. Okay. So again, this is just to show you the flexibility of Data Analyzer and SAC's wanting to get you in front of Data Analyzer and allow you to access it from different places within SAC. Okay. So what I would like to do now is just, since we've had a little navigation, we've taken a look at how we can go right to the Data Analyzer menu and create an insight, how we could initiate it from a model and create an insight. So now that we've done that, let's start to look at, okay, yes, now that we've gotten here, what can we do with this? What can we do to make this really work for us and supplement our analytics? Okay, so we can do things like this. Let's just start to have some fun with adding some things to the table here. Maybe we could look at some of the, here we have price, kilometers on cars. I mean, this is total for the whole model. There's 17,000 vehicles in here. So this data up here really does not mean anything to us as it sits like that. So maybe we could add brand in here, maybe type to the column. And one thing I'd like to point out here is notice that this is the vehicle dimension, but at the same time, I've taken properties from that same dimension and presented one of the properties in the row and one of the properties in the column axis, okay? Nothing you're gonna do easily in a report or anything like that. Yes, you can, but this is gonna be very easy to do this like this. So what you're presented with then on the screen is you're gonna have all your brands, and if we scroll down, you can see the kilometers are still there for our accounts, and then the brands repeat, etc. We could change the order of this, come up here, put the brands first, so then we can see all the brands, for their price, kilometer, seating capacity, and vehicles, etc. But another thing is you see a lot of dark lines or the gray lines through the cells. That just means that there's no data point within this combination of price, Audi for the brand, and cab chassis, which makes sense because Audi really doesn't make trucks that, for consumers, at least not in the US or Australia, I guess, for that matter. So this is just a quick way to start to be able to build your data set that you want to work with. And you can see we just did that by quickly selecting Data Analyzer from the model and literally just clicking on a couple of these icons to bring the data to life within this table, okay? However, we still have a whole bunch of information here. So maybe you want to retain this information, maybe you don't, I don't know. But maybe you're here just because your manager or something's asked you a question about the Australian auto market and has a specific question about a certain thing. This is where you can start to look at that as well. But even before we do that, one thing you can do to kind of bring this down really quick is you can right click on anything here as well. Like if I wanted to right click on this Photon, this 23 for the cab chassis, See, it just filtered it right down quickly just to that data intersection. Again, that's not going to tell me much, but at least visually it looks better. But here you can see we can undo that, and just because, yeah, I clicked on the wrong cell. I really didn't want that. I really wanted more of it. So I'll just click on the brand, and now it retains all of the, the accounts. So all of the data is still there. So I can see that there's one vehicle, has seating capacity of 2, uh, has this many kilometers on it, and here's the price. Okay. And then there's also one with a dual cab utility. Looks like 3 different vehicles for that one. So maybe this is the data set you're looking for. Maybe this is the answer that your manager is looking for, to get some of the detail here for this particular brand. So what you could do at this point is, sure, you could export it in any of these fashions, but if your manager is anything like managers I've had in the past, if they ask for something once, they're probably going to ask for it again, maybe next period or next year. So what you could do is you could just save that insight, give it a name. We'll just call it Photon Vehicles, and you can save it. Simple as that. So then when you go here to the data analyzer next time, you can see there's one of the latest files I use, Photon Vehicles, and there it is. So if I had a year filter on here, then I could quickly change the year, maybe the model year or something, and I would get refreshed data. And probably since I built this as well, there's probably also the source has been updated as well with the latest and greatest data. So you can see you have the structure built already, and then you can just reopen it again and refresh it from there. So that's the advantage of saving the different insights. However, I think where most of the value is going to come from for most users is really going to be from the accessing the data analyzer from a story. Okay, so I'd like to do that. So why don't I just come over here to the home screen. I want to go to my catalog, and you can see I have a catalog card here that is on the Australian car market. And I have some links in here to some things. Here's one of my insights. Here's actually a link to the model, but what I really want to hone in on is this car market analysis that's been put together that by our report writer and or administrator, and this is something I access fairly regularly, okay? However, if you look at it closely, yes, there's a lot of brand detail here. Prices, these are total prices. It's like the total value of the Toyotas on the market right now on the number of vehicles. And this would be your average price, again, in Australian dollars. So at this table here, one thing I can do is, as I'm going through this and looking at these in-cell charts, just kind of perusing through this, and it makes sense that, okay, a Lamborghini is going to be 450,000 Australian dollars, and yeah, a Bentley, but goodness, a Chevrolet, maybe that doesn't make sense. So I want to look and see what the underlying data is there. So I'm going to take a look at that, and how you would access that is that we have basically 3 different widgets on this page. We have a table widget, and over here we have a donut chart and a column bar chart down here. And each time I click into one, you can see a little ellipsis shows up here, okay, even down here. And we have options when we go into that ellipsis, and a lot of things that users can use. They have the ability to swap the axis and so on and so forth, can export it. But one of the options, if enabled in the table by the person that built it, you can also launch the data analyzer from here. And we can do so in the current tab. In other words, it'll just go to the data analyzer and leave this page behind, or we can just open it in a new tab. So let's just do that. So here you can see we still have our original story so we can quickly go back and reference that if we need to. So what I've done here is if you look at this table here, it closely resembles what's happening here. Okay, we just have the data from that table now in our data analyzer for us to be able to work with. Where here, we're pretty static in what we have. Yes, we could refresh the data. You know, if there's another filter, maybe we change a year or something like that. But the structure and everything is pretty much intact. But once we bring it over here, then we have some options. Okay, so remember our initial question was around that Chevrolet. So, okay, here's that Chevrolet data. There's a million Australian dollars for 7 vehicles. So let's go ahead and right click on Chevrolet. Remember, we do that, we have the opportunity to filter on that, or you could exclude it if you wanted to, but we're just gonna filter on that. Again, this is not showing us much, but we at least filtered this down so where it's usable for us. So now we can start to add some things that might give us the answer to things. So what about the model? Let's click on the model. So we can see of those 7 vehicles, one's a Camaro and 6 of them are Silverados. Okay, that still seems a lot. Just if for those in the US, just for clarity's sake, the exchange rate is about 0.65 Australian dollars to a US dollar. So this is, I don't know, just quickly in my head, 89 or 90,000 possibly for a Camaro. That could be, but these are fairly expensive as well. So what else is out there that we could look at that could tell us something? Maybe the type. No, that's not giving us any new information. Maybe the series. Nope. How about our gearbox here? They're all automatics. They're all in the used car market right now. Let's look at the variants. Maybe that's going to help us out. Okay. So we can see here, because our manager asked us this question, we can now tell them that we have some additional information that we can give to them. We can say, hey, there's those 7 vehicles there. And yes, one of them is a Camaro, which makes sense. But as we did a little more research, we know that just from a market standpoint, the Silverado pickup trucks are quite costly in Australia. So we have a breakdown of what that really was. So it kind of gives us some insight as to why this average price for Chevrolet vehicle is up there, kind of pushing the Bentley land up there. So kind of gives us some insight into that, but there's no way we could see that detail from here. Okay, so that's the advantage of doing that. And again, you could save this insight if you wanted to. Okay, so that's what we can do for the table. Now, what if we, click over in one of the charts, which is using the same data, but just presenting it in a little different way. Here we're looking at the number of vehicles per brand, but here we're looking at the weight. So it's a donut chart, obviously, so this is going to be broken down by percentage. So if we look at this big orange block here, or bite of the donut maybe, you can see there's 22% of these are Toyotas. So that's a lot of the vehicles. That's 27, almost 2,800 of the 17,000 vehicles. So we want to find out more about this. But if we go up to the ellipsis here, wait, there's no data analyzer. That's because you can access it differently from a chart. So if you notice, I clicked on the data point, and in the building of this chart, all we have to do is add a hyperlink into this chart widget that says when we click on a data point, we want to go access a certain item. Okay, in this case, that could be another story, but in this case, I'm going to link to a predetermined or predefined data analyzer insight. Okay, so what I'm going to do here then is just, again, because I clicked on this, I could click on any other one as well, and I could see that same link. So I'll just go ahead and click on that. And since I have not really filtered down the data insight, it's really what it's doing is giving us all of the underlying data of that donut chart. Okay, so here then at this point, maybe you wanted to hone in on the those Toyotas. We can come in here and have a use the brand. Well, here I can just search on it and drop in Toyota there. So now we have all of our Toyotas. If we needed to, we could start to, maybe we don't want all of this information. So what we could do is maybe get rid of some of the variants here. We could keep the models. We don't need the colors, the brand. We know what the brand is. So you can see right away that we can quickly massage this data, if you will, to get it down to a point where it's usable for us. And then if we want to, we could then at that point export it to Excel. Maybe it's something else you want to do with it in Excel, maybe to chart it or maybe add it to another data set you have. But you can see how quickly we were able to go from this over to this without having to go create another report or call up our admin and say, hey, what is the underlying data here? How do I know what that is? How can I get to it? Can you write me a report? No, what we can do is we can be, self-service here, and we can go and use the data analyzer to get the information that we need. Okay, so that's one of the definite advantages of using data analyzer is how you can use it in conjunction with your stories. Okay, so with that, the data analyzer itself, again, just to kind of conclude here on the demo portion, it's really, like that pivot table-like feel. You're not going to be able to chart from here. You're not going to be able to add formulas, to maybe do some math between columns. What you're really going to be doing here is just to drill into your data. Okay, if you need to do more of that, say, for example, to get the average price per vehicle or something, not a good example here because these are all individual lines, but maybe at that point, that's when you export it to Excel so you can start to add formulas and get different insights into the data. But this is how you would generate that data set from objects like these that you would see maybe in your monthly FP&A analysis. Okay, so with that, let me jump back to the PowerPoint. And what I'd like to do is kind of conclude and mention some of the takeaways that you have from here is that mainly and primarily is that data analyzer is really a powerful tool that's already available to supplement your analytics capabilities in Analytics Cloud. It's something that's already there. It's not an add-in. You just need to make sure that the users have access to it. And again, their data access rights are going to be honored when they use it. So there's really no fear or should not be any trepidation of using that, as if they're going to be able to mine data that they don't have access to. Their data access will be honored. So, like I said, it's going to give users quick and flexible access to the data at the granularity they need. And if we think about the story example, that was pretty high level data, but going to that data analyzer, they're quickly to get to the level of granularity that they need and do it quickly. Okay, as I've already mentioned this here about the security, the user interface is, like I said, pivot table-like. So those of us that use Excel, which are probably most of us, are going to be um, very familiar with the look and feel of it, and be able to have a short learning curve here as we get to do that. And most importantly, uh, you know, these types of things are generally repeatable as well. So we're going to be able to save these insights, save that effort that we've put into getting that data set exactly how we want it to be, and we can save that off and refresh it at a later date, etc. So with that, that really concludes the demonstration. At this point, I am open to questions. I do not see any questions in the question area, but feel free to add a question in the questions area if you would like. You will be getting a copy of this deck and a link to the recording of this demonstration, so stay tuned for that. And included in there will be an appendix that has some additional information, some information from the some of the help menus. There's some videos out there that you could watch for further information. Also left on that page my direct contact information in addition to that early slide that you could contact me if you have specific questions for your specific use case. So I do have one question here. In what point do you start to see a drop in performance when connecting to large SAC models? I don't have a specific point that I could tell you, Paul, but the fact is it's not creating anything new when you generate a data analyzer view, okay? So what you will see is obviously the broader that you open up your data analyzer view and the more data that you're bringing in. I mean, yes, you're going to see, you know, maybe a little performance degradation, but I really don't have uh, any information to share with you about specifics. You know, is it going to be, you know, 100,000 rows of data or a million rows of data? I just don't know the answer to that. I have not run into any performance issues yet. I can put it that way. So, which is why I don't have a data point for you. Sorry, it's not a direct answer, but the implied answer is I just have not run into any data performance issues at this point. And any other questions? One more just came in. Oh, so Paul, it sounds like maybe Paul is having some data performance issues. Correct me if I'm wrong on that assumption, Paul, based on your reply. I do have another question here. Data analyzer working when I activate from story, but not when I create a data action directly. Or data action, I'm sorry, DA. That's, I think of data action, data analyzer directly. So my assumption is that you are not able to do so from here. And if you're not able to do it from here, you should be able to, it's very straightforward to find a model that you have access to. And that should be able to get you what you need. Let's see, that was, yeah, the person that asked me that question or has this issue. If you wanted to send me an email directly, I could maybe get you a quick answer to that. Really, I would need to kind of see what you're looking at. And yes, Paul has confirmed that yes, he is having some performance issues with that. Paul, what I could do is I could, if you want to send me a note, I could test something on some of the larger databases that I have, and I could see if we are kind of working with the same size data sets, just as a reference point for yourself, I'd be happy to do that for you. Okay. Okay. All right. That's all the questions that have come in. Don't see any more rolling in, so I think we'll conclude that for this session. Again, those that I've reached out to or that have reached out via the questions here and would like some follow-up, please feel free to shoot me an email. I'll be happy to follow up with you after. Okay. All right. So with that, we'll conclude the session. Thank you all for attending. Appreciate your time.